Hey guys, it's Shannon from iHeartRadio Nights here with JP Saxe.
Hi Shannon, thanks
so
for
good to
having me
see you.
back.
Yeah, it's a lot has happened since I saw
much.
you. Yeah, a lot. So how's it all been? Just crazy, whirlwind, insane.
Yeah, generally positive.
Yeah.
I'm having a wonderful time.
Oh, good. That's
you know,
good to hear.
that If the World Was Ending, which is the song that kind of like changed things up
Yeah.
for me over the last 6 months, was written a few days after we did our last interview.
Was it really? I was wondering about that with the timeline because that obviously wasn't a thing last time that I saw you. So just a couple days.
Yeah, because I got back to Los Angeles from my trip to Toronto, which is when we
Right.
met and
Yeah.
did our last interview. And my first day back in Los Angeles, I met Julia and we wrote that song.
That's crazy. I know. I want to get into all of that. But first of all, you're back in Toronto. Does that feel good?
Yeah, it does. It's
Yeah.
nice to be home.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there always things that you're like make sure that you get up to when you're in Toronto, like places to go or show people?
You know, I have a few friends from LA here in Toronto, and I feel like I want to have like Toronto things to do with them, but I
Right.
haven't lived here since I was 19, so I feel like
okay.
all of the things I would do feel like outdated.
Right.
So I need suggestions.
Yeah. I mean, you could do the aquarium.
Is the aquarium cool?
Yeah, the aquarium's the best. It's so much fun.
I've never been.
Really? I guess because it opened only a couple years ago. Yeah. But I highly suggest it. Just like point to the CN Tower and be like, there, CN Tower. That's like always a touristy
done that.
thing. Okay, cool.
I've pointed.
Okay, check that off. Cool. Yeah, there's lots of things. I guess you could always just wander, show them around, give them some.
Wander, it's freezing.
It's not that bad.
You've lived here a long time.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, that's right. But you did give them ketchup chips, right?
You saw my Instagram, the ketchup chips?
Yeah, yeah.
I showed them ketchup chips. I showed them curling on TV.
Nice.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I've taught them some Canadianisms.
Oh, yeah? What kind of Canadianisms?
I can't do it.
No?
I can't. I'm not sure how offensive it is.
Oh, I see. What did they think of ketchup chips, though? Fans? Not fans?
They were skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come around.
I have American friends that come to visit, and they're all obsessed with all-dressed chips. That's like the big thing.
I love all-dressed
Yeah,
chips.
because they don't have that in the States.
No.
Brutal. That's why Canada is the best.
Because of the chips.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Politics.
And you're our future star artist, too, which is a huge...
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me a future star.
No problem. Yeah, which is great because then it's, all across Canada, you and Julia. That's so great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's been such a trip.
Yeah. Okay, so you went to LA. You met Julia because she DM'd you.
She DM'd me about
she
another.
posted- yeah,
she
yeah.
posted my song 25 in Barcelona. I thanked her for doing that, and then she said we should write, and it happened.
That's crazy. And you said that you were having a conversation about her when she had posted about you?
Yeah, like 15 minutes before she posted the song, I was on a road trip with friends talking about how she had just changed pop music in the modern era and how she was one of my favorite songwriters ever.
That's crazy. Do you believe in like manifesting things? Do you think that was like an example of that?
A friend of mine has this term called, I think it's intentional serendipity, where you live in a way that welcomes serendipity and then hopefully things happen.
Yeah.
So I hadn't done that consciously, but there's been a lot of serendipitousness in my life the last 26 years. So
Right. Cool. Yeah. And it's obviously working out well for you. Look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys met and then you wrote the song the first time that you met.
Mm-hmm.
Was that difficult to just have that? Like, did you have an immediate connection and then it just got going, or do you kind of have to force it in order to get that going? Because that's going to be hard, just to meet somebody and be like, okay, now let's do this like vulnerable thing and write music.
Yeah, you're totally right. It can be extremely challenging, but sometimes, you just meet someone sometimes and you just like can have the easiest conversation and you just could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes writing a song and having it be like really effective is just that, except you both have this language of songwriting, so it turns into that conversation turns into something that other people can listen to.
Yeah. What do you think it is about Julia that just makes her like this perfect collaborator? Because she does so much for so many
She's
artists.
perfect everything.
Yeah.
She's perfect.
I mean, how
love
can
her.
you? Yeah. So, but what makes her such a good collaborator?
She's extremely empathetic. She's like obnoxiously talented, and I think what makes a songwriter great is the ability to take a human emotion and capture it in a song, and she can do that. And she's one of the very few people in the world who can do that so brilliantly for herself, but also, can listen to another person talk for 3 hours and then enter that experience in a way that turns everything they just said to her into a song that feels like it is completely their voice.
Right. And with The World Is Ending, it was inspired by an earthquake. Is that typically how you'll get inspiration from songs? Not
Natural disasters?
Yeah, that's what I meant. But like having something happen and be like, okay, there's a song right there. Is like throughout moments in your life, or is it different all the time?
There are definitely some thoughts that I'll be like, oh, that's a song thought.
Right.
And the first part of If the World Was Ending was just that if the world was ending, you'd come over, right? Which was a thought during the earthquake. And yeah, sometimes there are moments where you can tell. And then for me, journaling is a big part of my process because I have to just like get thoughts out without thinking that they're going to be songs, and then look back at them after and
and kind of piece it together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's your writing style like? Do you usually like write out music first, or is it like music first or lyrics first?
It's usually, almost in every case, words first.
Really?
Not all of the words, but like the general idea, and then the rest of the words and the music will happen together.
Yeah, and then you just like start playing around with music styles and figure out where you're going. Did you always consider yourself like a very vulnerable and open person, or was that kind of forced when you were like, okay, now I have to like let my heart out? Because like so much of your music is so vulnerable, or like talking about breakups and all of that stuff. Like that's not an easy thing to just like release to the world.
I think about 2 years ago, I had a shift where I thought what made me myself in Powerful and Strong was my ability to come up with exactly how I should function in every situation, and like think of what the ideal way to feel would be, and then try and get myself to feel that way. It was like very intellectual, very like head first all of the time. And then about 2 years ago, I had this shift where I realized like what could actually make me powerful and strong was just allowing myself to feel whatever I was feeling, not having to come up with it first, and then just putting that forward. And yeah, that's vulnerable, but it's also been the thing that's made almost every good thing happen in my life since.
That's cool that you like realize that and then can like use that.
Yeah, both like in my music, in my relationships, in my friendships, in love, in my career. Yeah. It's all kind of intertwined. Like the less that I like tried to come up with what it meant to be honest and rather just like exist, just like there's this phrase like it's not doing, it's being, which I like really want to tattoo on my body because like it kind of summarizes all of this for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
Probably on my arm with my other ones.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
But just like recognizing that my capacity to have an emotional experience of the world is bigger than my ability to come up with what it should be, and that if I just kind of follow that.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it's like letting life take its course.
Yeah.
And like not forcing it, which I feel like is easier said than done.
It's so complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
And like I fail at it most of the time.
Yeah, but as long as you're like acknowledging it and things, right?
Totally. And not everyone like has the kind of life that facilitates thinking about that every day. And I'm really grateful that I get to be an artist, and like my emotional experience is tied up into my career. So right. I do have that blessing of, being able to think about it all the time and have it not get in the way of my job, but actually make me better at it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something I'm always so jealous of with artists, because I'm like, oh, you get to like use all these emotions and life experiences and then like put it into your art, which is, not something that everybody can do.
Yeah. Pros and cons for sure. But like for the most part, in that sense, it's super helpful.
Yeah.
But then, you have a difficult feeling that you put into a song, and it's cathartic at the time because now this difficult experience isn't in you, it's in the song. And then 2 years later, when you don't have the experience anymore, you're singing that song, and the same thing that took it out of you is now putting it back into you. It's all very complicated.
Yeah, especially, and I guess you can't really have like forward momentum because you're just like have to sing about a breakup or whatever for months on end.
I'm really trying to believe that like my ability to express myself doesn't require me to be like brooding all the time.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I
you can like
be happy
separate
and
that.
still write about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to be.
And I'm happy right now.
Good. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. That's awesome.
Some happy songs on the EP.
Yeah. Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah. When can we expect the EP to come out?
Next month.
Oh, can't wait.
I actually don't know if I'm allowed to say the date, but it's next month.
Okay. That's fine. That's enough. But yeah, that's very exciting. Very soon. That's sweet. And you have sold out show in Toronto.
Yeah.
Going on tour with Len and Stella.
Yeah.
Heading up Europe. Mm-hmm. How are you so excited for all of that?
I love Len and Stella. She's an incredible artist.
She's the
best. I'm super excited and grateful that she's bringing me on tour with her. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I've never toured in Europe.
Crazy.
Everything's new, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. How did that come to be with Lennon?
We had talked a bit on Instagram because I'm a huge fan of her, and she had liked a couple of my songs, and we were talking, and I told her that if she needed support on any of her shows, that I would fly to anywhere in the world.
I mean, then just put yourself out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she was like, I would love that. I'm going to tell my managers. And then a few days later, we got an official offer.
Oh, that's crazy. I know, because when I was doing a little research, just catching up with what you're up to. And in an interview, you had said somebody that you would have wanted to work with was Len and Stella. And now you're going. It's like,
look at that whole manifesting
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. Like, I was like, oh, there's a theme in all of this. So that's a good way to be. I need to be more like that, to like put things out there and then it comes back at you.
I mean, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so there's obviously like a lot of artists who want like inspiration as to like if this is a field that they should get into, or advice for somebody, an aspiring artist. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to follow in the same path?
When I was working as a songwriter for other people, I used to say there was like 3 things that like made an artist successful, and like very little else. You had to know who you are, you had to know how to be okay with it, and you had to know how to put it in a song.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. That's so great. Well, I'm so glad that you came. Yes?
The second step's the hardest one.
That's true. Yep.
Often people, you know who you are, but it's the knowing how to be okay with it that's like really challenging.
Yeah, and I think that goes hand in hand too with like the being vulnerable and like forcing yourself to be that way and bring that into your art. Yeah.
Yeah, and not to say that I'm like there all the time. It's like some days yes, some days no.
Right, but I mean, you're doing pretty good.
Try my best.
Cool. Well, I'm so glad that you stopped by. It's so good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
Yeah, so happy. Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cool.